Oh look, I'm back, still in the kitchen. Am I doing this cooking show thing right? Probably not. As long as we got good food at the end, that's all that matters, right? Welcome back to our YouTube channel, everybody. My name is Giacomo Marchese. Today, I'm going to show you 5 different ways to cook with oats. This is not your ordinary oatmeal and fruit in the morning kind of recipe. This first one is going to be using oats to make burgers. Oat and black bean burger, actually. All right, well, let's get started. These are all of the ingredients that you're going to need. We have our wet and we have our dry, and this is super duper simple. You don't need any machines or anything like that. You just mix these ingredients up, form the burgers, and then put them right on the grill or bake them or pan fry them. Okay, so step 1, we're going to get some black beans. I like doing a cheater method by getting some canned black beans. I'm going to get a cup worth of these and I'm going to pour them into my mixing bowl. And in order to start forming the base for these patties, I'm going to take these black beans and I'm just going to mash them up with a fork. We're not looking for puree, we just want to make sure that we break the beans and they're not like super duper mashed up, but mashed up just enough so that they can take on the oats and they can combine and form well with all of the flavors and spices that we are going to add in. Step number 1, I'm going to put in some mustard, some Dijon. You can use regular yellow American mustard too. Actually, it's really whatever you have access to. So I'll put in 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard for a little bit of extra flavor. And now I'm going to put in a tablespoon worth of ketchup. I like using the no sugar added Heinz because it's more macro friendly than regular ketchup. And you can use tamari or soy sauce or low sodium soy sauce or Bragg's or what have you, but basically some sort of soy sauce. About a tablespoon worth of that. And I'm going to start to mix this all up into the base. Okay, now that that's all mixed up, I'm going to go ahead and add in my spices first, and then I'm going to add the oats. So I have 2 tablespoons worth of garlic powder and 2 tablespoons of onion powder. And correction, that was actually 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Sorry. And for the cumin, teaspoon of that, and 1.5 teaspoons of chili. I'm gonna mix that all up. Such a simple but delicious recipe. This is one of the first recipes that Danny and I ever made when we had just met and we were experimenting with different plant-based ingredients and how to make food. And I remember distinctly, it was like about 10 years ago, where we were like, this is amazing. Obviously now, plant-based foods have come such a long way, but I feel like the tried and true recipes made with wholesome ingredients are still the best ones. And this is one of my personal favorites. Now that that is all mixed in, I'm gonna go ahead and add the oats. I like to use quick oats. I feel like it makes a better texture in the mix, and I'm going to go ahead and toss in 1.5 cups worth of the quick oats. So now all of my dry ingredients are in the bowl, and I'm gonna go ahead and mix that up thoroughly. I like getting my hands dirty in the mix, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start mixing this together with my hands. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and move over to my kitchen over here where I'm going to make my patties and then get them cooked up. All right, there are 3 different ways that you can do this. You can bake them, toss them on the grill outside, or pan fry them. I'm gonna go ahead and spray a little bit of cooking oil on my skillet, and I'm gonna pop these on medium heat. I think I can fit all 6 onto here. Oh yeah, I already hear them sizzling. Let's say flip them like every 2 to 3 minutes. After flipping them around once over, about 5 to 7 minutes, they'll all be done. Okay, so that came out to a yield of about 6 burgers, and we're looking at a little over 100 calories per burger. Not so bad at all, actually. 25 grams of carbs, gram of fat, 5 grams of protein. And then I can plate it and enjoy it. So tossed some Daya cheddar shreds on top, microwaved that for a little bit, melted the cheese, and put some lettuce, pickles, tomato, the normal fixins, maybe some onion if you like. I don't. And maybe a little bit more mustard and ketchup. And that's it. Recipe number 2. All right, this is a healthy granola. I'm going to start with 3 cups of oats. I'm gonna set those aside, and I'm going to also get a 1/4 cup of peanuts, and I'm gonna grind those up, and I'm gonna set those to the side as well. And that's how we start. So I want to chop them up coarsely, preferably, but I don't have the time for that right now, so I'm just going to grind them here and just try to lightly pulse the NutriBullets so that way I get a little bit of texture to the peanuts. That's going to be the base for the granola. The next thing I'm going to do is get all of my wet ingredients, and I'm going to go ahead and get a creamy base going in a pot by mixing them all together. Okay, so got my pan, got my ingredients. I'm going to start with some TVP. I'm going to put 2/3 of a cup of that in there. That's high in protein and good for texture. Say like a 1/2 cup of apple juice, 1/4 cup of peanut butter, dump that right on in there, and 1/8 cup of maple syrup, or any kind of syrup would do. Agave nectar works as well, and 2 tablespoons of vanilla. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on medium heat and pop this on, and I'm gonna whisk it until it's creamy and smooth. All right, now that that's beginning to bubble, I'm gonna turn that off, and I'm gonna spread this all over the oats and the peanuts mixed up. I'm gonna make one nice big medley on a baking sheet of granola, and I'll probably toss a little bit of fruit into the mix as well. I have some raisins in the pantry, so I feel like raisins and peanuts are a nice mix for granola, but you could put whatever else you want there. You can put coconut flakes, you could put cranberries, different kinds of nuts. Have fun with it. All right, got my oats. I'm gonna pour the peanuts into there. Probably should have this stuff set aside beforehand because you don't want your mixture to dry out too much. So I mix the peanuts in with the oats, and I pour the oats on a baking tray. Now, I'm going to take my mixture over here, and I'm going to fold it into the oats and really mix that in nicely after I put it all up on top. It smells really good. It's going to take a little bit. I'm going and preheating the oven to 325 degrees, and I'll probably put it in there for about 25 minutes. Did I say 25 minutes? More like 40 minutes. So I'm gonna pop that in the oven in just a minute, but first I wanna make sure that my little buddy over here gets to enjoy. We usually like to share our recipes with the animals in the house. Joey's usually the one that goes for it more than anyone. Sometimes Jerome's, the kitties couldn't care less. Okay, now that the oven's been preheated, I'm gonna take this granola, pop it in, set the timer for about 42 minutes, and then it should be all done. Okay, so some pointers and some tips about the granola. Got it out of the oven. The longer that you leave it in, the more crunchy it will become, and you have to let it cool down before you realize just how crunchy it will become. Also, I forgot to mention, do suggest using some salt. Anywhere between 1 to 2 teaspoons of salt will round out the flavor. And yeah, once it cools down, you're left with about 6 servings of granola. Each serving is about 35 grams of carbs, 11 grams of fat, and 10 grams of protein, and it is delicious. And like I mentioned earlier, you can have fun with it and change the flavor profile up in any way that you like. Honestly, you can use coconut, seeds, nuts, different kinds of fruits. Like, have fun with it, be creative. Okay, third way to make oatmeal, and this way I feel is one that is overlooked and the most interesting to me personally, is instead of going for the typical fruit and oats, you can do savory oats in the morning. It's as simple as getting about 3/4 of a cup of dried oats and adding some savory ingredients in. So we're gonna do a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of poultry seasoning, or if you have sage and thyme, you can do 1/8 of a teaspoon of each of those instead, and a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. Oh, let's get that out there. There we go. And a 1/4 teaspoon of parsley. Now that we have our oats and they're seasoned up nice and savory like, we're gonna go ahead and cook that in vegetable broth instead of water or your favorite non-dairy milk. Also, I want to go ahead and steam up some kale, and I have some chopped up pecans, or you could use walnuts, and we're gonna go ahead and top the savory oatmeal dish with that. So I'll go ahead and put these in some water that I have steaming behind me, and then I'll take you over here so you can see how the oats cook up. Everything's done and it's time to plate it. The oats, I basically cook the water out on medium heat. I'm gonna go ahead and put those in my dish and get them ready to serve. And then the kale, once it got to a boil, I steamed it for about 2 to 5 minutes, drained the kale, pretty straightforward. And what I'm left with is a delicious, creative way to enjoy your oatmeal in the morning or even at lunch. Yeah, no wrong time to have it, really. Oats are so filling and satiating. And when you do it this way, you get some nutrition in as well, not just from the oats, also from vegetables. And you just get to enjoy a different kind of flavor. There you go. Okay, another way to make oats are to use them to make protein pancakes. And the base of this is oat flour and gluten. You could substitute the gluten for regular flour, but I like using gluten because it ups the protein count, hence protein pancakes. So with the oats, this is a matter of personal preference. I personally like to take fresh old-fashioned oats and grind them up. I like the texture. Also, if you don't have a blender, or for the sake of time, or if you prefer a little bit of a smoother consistency, you can buy pre-packaged oat flour, which is more finely ground. I'm gonna mix this stuff up old-fashioned style. I have 3/4 of a cup of the oat flour that I ground up, 1 cup of the gluten flour, and I'm gonna go ahead and toss in 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I'll go ahead, stir that up a little bit, and then I'll mix in the wet, which is 1.5 cups of unsweetened soy milk. Of course, you can use sweetened soy milk, cashew milk, whatever you like, really. And I'm gonna toss some banana into there, about 1/2 cup of banana. I'm gonna mix that up all real nice until I get a good batter-like consistency. Alright, so I know I said 1.5 cups of soy milk. It was closer to 3. As you saw, the consistency was nowhere near where we needed to be. So I poured in an extra 1.5 cups for a total of 3 cups of soy milk. And I went ahead and folded in some blueberries as well. And now I have my batter. And I'm gonna start whipping up some pancakes. Got this on medium heat, sprayed it a little bit with some cooking spray, and I'm gonna get started. Okay, got 8 pancakes out of this recipe. Each pancake is about 10-11 grams of carbs, 1-2 grams of fat, and 12 to 13 grams of protein. So you're looking at equal carbs and protein and very low fat, basically. And it was super simple to make, and this is enough pancakes to feed a small family or a large army of vegan bodybuilders or anyone in between. Simple, delicious, nutritious, one of my favorite go-tos, especially on the weekends. Final recipe, and one where you get a sweet treat at the end. These are oat bars. I'm gonna start by mixing up some bananas. I'm gonna get 2 bananas, toss them into this bowl, and I'm gonna mash them up with some soy milk, about 1/2 cup, and a tablespoon of maple syrup. Once that's all mashed up, I'm gonna combine my dry ingredients. All right, that took a couple minutes. Now that's all mashed up, not pureed, but nicely mashed up with the bananas. We'll put a cup of oats in here and 1/2 cup of oat flour, 1/2 cup of gluten, some salt, about 1/4 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And combine this up, and then I'm gonna have my dough, and I'm gonna go ahead and toss this all in an 8x8 non-stick baking pan, and you just throw some parchment paper and spread some oil to make sure that it can separate. You can get them out afterwards or put them on a cooling rack, whatever. They're delicious. Get them in there, get them in the oven about 350 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes, and you have delicious oat bars to enjoy. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this all mixed up. Toss that in there. Yeah, mix that up a little bit more. And I really do like to get my hands in it. It's a personal preference. Promise you I washed it. There we go. Okay, and now I have my dough. I'm gonna go ahead and take my oat bar mix, put it in there, pop it in the oven. Right, have my oven preheated to 350. I'm gonna set the timer for 20 minutes. If I want them a little more crunchy, I'll leave them in for longer than 20 minutes, and that's it. So it's been a little over 20 minutes. I feel like you could put these in for 25 to 30 minutes and really get them a little more crunchy, but I like them a little less crunchy, so I'm taking them out about the 20 to 25 minute mark. And it's time to put the finishing touches on. I'm gonna go ahead and get some coconut flakes. I'm gonna sprinkle the coconut flakes on top, and then I'm gonna cut these up into 9 squares. Carefully get them out, put them on a cooling rack, let them cool for like 10 minutes, and the recipe's all done. All right, these finished cooling and they're ready to serve. We're looking at around 22 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fat, and 7 grams of protein per serving. And there you have it, 5 different ways to cook oats. Again, like the tofu video, while you could theoretically eat tofu all day long, I wouldn't suggest it, just like I wouldn't suggest eating nothing but oats all day long. However, you could have oats for breakfast, lunch, for snack, for dinner, and you can make it in all kinds of ways and enjoy. Anyhow, if you liked the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, let us know in the comments how you like to enjoy your oats, or if you want to see any other kinds of videos like this, give us a type of food that you want us to create different recipes with. We're here to keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch up with you soon.